Welcome to Learn It, a series of digital scrapbooking tutorials by Studio Wendy at Scrapbook Graphics. I'm really excited to share with you my new series of actions that are going to be coming to Scrapbook Graphics very soon. I'm going to be releasing a new set each month, so that's something to look forward to if you fall in love with these as much as I have. These are called the Embellisher Actions, and my inspiration for this was from working in Lightroom to make my collage pages and then pulling them into Photoshop and realizing that when it came to embellishing the pages, I was often using similar kinds of clusters over and over again. And so I thought, why not make a series of actions for different types of clusters that will help easily embellish any layout, but especially for use with my Lightroom layouts. And then as I got going, of course, I had a lot of fun with it and ended up creating a lot of different types of clusters here. We're going to be working with the Embellisher Set 2 for this tutorial. Before we get started, I wanted to point out that in your download you will find a PDF that includes the sample and supply list for each of the different embellisher actions. So here's a peek at the page for the Embellisher 2. And you can see here that we have 4 different actions included in this one. We have the dangle, the double dangle, the tuck, and the balancer. And for each one of those, I've given you a supply list of the types of elements that you're going to want to have on hand and prepared, as well as a sample of what it could end up looking like. Now there's tons of flexibility with these actions. You can use any kind of element to fit in each spot, and no matter what size you pull it in at, even if it's not quite the size that I suggest when the action runs, it will still work. You might just need to tweak it a little bit when you're done. But these are some samples based on the sizes that I created to give you this particular look. So for example, if you look at this balancer, we have a giant banner, we have some foliage in the background, a word strip, a flower, and 2 buttons, and a ribbon hiding way back there. But you can substitute these elements out for anything you want that comes in your kit or that you have in mind. So for example, this ribbon could be a string, it could be a stamp, it could be a rickrack, it could be anything that you want to be on that bottom layer. Then for this foliage, again, you can use any other type of element. The idea here is kind of some texture and filler, so think about that when you're choosing those. Your word strip could just be a tag. It really could be anything here, and the same with your fasteners. So you have a lot of flexibility here, but this is a great reference when you're pulling your supplies together. I'm going to close out of that. And real quick, I'm just going to flip over and show you. I've prepared all of my supplies ahead of time, and the reason I like to do that is because I can kind of go through and gather up all my supplies and pull from any number of kits, or even just pick a particular kit for each layout and have them all in one place and ready to go. And so I like to work that way. You don't have to. You can run the action and go find your supplies as you work as well, but this is just the way I like to work, and especially for the tutorial, I've gathered together any of the supplies I think I might want to use as we go along. So here we are in Photoshop. I am going to set my view here to standard mode, and we're going to get started with the first action. So in my actions panel, I've got Embellisher 2 loaded, and here are the 4 actions. I'm going to select the first one and press play. Now the action will tell you exactly what we're going to do at the very beginning. So here we're going to make a dangle cluster. It tells me what we need in the order we need it: a bow, a ribbon or leaf, a hanging tag, or some other kind of long element, a flower button or fastener. So a bow, ribbon or leaf, a hanging tag, and a flower button or fastener. Don't worry about remembering that. Again, it's on your supply list if you want to print it out, or I'll show you what happens here in a minute. In order to help us remember what we need, I've put a couple little tricks here in the action. The next message just reminds us that when we choose an element, we'll need to resize it to fit the canvas. It's okay if it extends off a little bit, and then we'll press enter to apply it. So those are just the basic instructions for the way all the actions will work. When the first open dialog box comes up, if you move it out of the way, you'll see here we have a brand new document open in Photoshop, and it is named with the type of item that we need to select. So that is how we can remind ourselves as we go through the action what we need to be choosing in that very specific moment. So here we're looking for a bow, a ribbon, or a leaf. So I'm going to go into my Dangle folder here that I set up. I'm going to turn on Cover Flow on the Mac, which helps me see the elements as I'm choosing. And I'm looking for a bow, a ribbon, or a leaf. And this is going to form the corner of our dangle element. So let's go ahead and choose this leaf up here. When it comes on the screen, the idea is to fill the canvas as best as we possibly can. Now, if that means rotating in order to fill it out completely, then we need to rotate it. In some cases, if you've got an unusual shaped element, you may even want to rotate it catty corner so it fills that space to the best of its ability. Now you'll see here, if it goes off the canvas a little bit, that's perfectly okay. It won't get cut off the way I've designed the action. It will grab the entire element even if it's off the screen a little bit. But the closer you can make your element to the size of the canvas, the better it will be positioned in the action. The other thing you want to keep tabs of here is the percentage. Anytime you're resizing an element, you don't want to resize it more than probably 20 to 30% for best quality. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your elements. In this case, I would probably choose a different type of leaf, but I'm going to go ahead and, since this is just for demonstration purposes, use this element, even though I'm resizing it up to 200% almost. When I'm done with the resize, I'm going to press Enter, and then I'm prompted to pick a hanging tag or other long embellishment. So I've got a few things I can choose from here. Let's choose this tag. And I'm going to rotate that and resize it. Now, if when your element comes up on the screen, it looks like this, where you can't get to your resize handles, you have two options. One is to use the width and height up here at the top and type in a smaller number so that they come back up on the screen. Or your other option is to Command Option minus zoom. So that would be Control Alt minus on a PC. That will shrink the window down without shrinking your master box down here. And that allows you to grab those resize handles and use them. So go ahead and do that and press Enter. And then we're prompted for a flower button or fastener. So let's go grab this cute little flower and see how this one is too large. So I'm just going to type in 20, 15, there we go, till I can get those handles and resize it like I want it. When the action is complete, you're going to have the opportunity in some cases to position your cluster where you want it to be, so you can just kind of drag that around. In this case, it's falling behind my layout because I forgot to select the top layer. That's okay. So what we're going to do is just press Enter to apply that transformation, and then I'm going to select all those layers and just move them to the top of my layout. Now I have the flexibility, because all the layers are still in here individually, to change my layer styles if I want to. If I want this to be a large shadow and maybe a smaller one here, or in this case, because it already has a shadow on it, I might want to completely clear that shadow off of there, and I may want a smaller one on there. I can do that. And then I can also resize some of these elements if I want to. Like this leaf is entirely too large, and so I can tweak the position of this cluster as I see fit. So that is how these actions will work in their basic form here. And you'll find as you play with the different embellishments with the actions, some types will work better than others, but it's really fun to play with them and get a feel for what you can do with them and how you can make each cluster really look unique, even though the placement is very similar. So if I wanted to add another cluster, the great thing about the actions is I can just select another action and just run it right on top of the same layout. I don't need to rename these layers. I don't need to move them out of the way or anything. I can just go ahead and run the action again. I'm going to turn them off though, just so they don't get in the way as we are running the action. So this is the dangle double. And this basically gives us a similar look to this corner dangle, except we get more items in the cluster. So let's go ahead and press play. We need 2 bows, ribbons, or leaves, 2 hanging objects, and then a flower button or fastener. So let's press continue. So the first button or leaf, in this case, I'm going to try these double hearts instead of using a leaf. So we'll just resize those to fit. Then a second one, it can be the same or it can be completely different. It's entirely up to you. If I choose, let's say, these circles here, we'll get a different look than if we chose the same double hearts over again. Now we need another hanging element. So for the first hanging element, I'm going to go ahead and choose these dots. I'm going to press Command plus and then Command Option minus in order to get them on the screen. Now you'll see here, this is not sized very similarly at all, but that's okay. We're just going to rotate it, keep an eye on this percentage up here so we're not making it too big, and just position it the best we can. Then the final item is a tag. Let's go ahead and use this one this time. And then finally a flower or button. And since that already had a safety pin on it, I will go ahead and choose this flower again. All right, and there is our cluster. So just press enter. And then this one again is going to need some adjustments. So this case, I'm going to make this much smaller. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And then I need to move this dangle over. And I'm going to tuck this flower back over here. And actually, I think I'm going to bump these down beneath the hearts. So you've got lots of flexibility to really make this the way you want it to be. And even here, I think I may, let's try this. Edit, transform, flip, get those dots going the other direction so they're not over my photo. Okay, and then if I want to, I can even select all the layers and resize them smaller and tuck them over here. So that's how the double dangle works. Let's go ahead and try the next one. Let's do the balancer first. The tuck is sort of a unique action, so let's do the balancer first. Okay, it wants a ribbon, and go into my balancer folder here and look for a ribbon. There's my ribbon. Next, it wants some leaves. And you'll see here that I'm trying to rotate this so that it kind of matches more of the angle of the file. We have a string next. So let's choose our string. And then our banner. A word strip. A flower. For that flower, instead I'm going to choose these birds. And then a button or fastener. We're going to use this heart. And this heart is going to be used on either side of the banner. Okay, so there is our cluster. And in this case, it's prompting me to go ahead and position those hearts where I want them. And then once I do that, I'm able to reposition that entire cluster. So maybe I want it all the way going up at the top of the layout, or maybe I want it across the center. I can also resize it here smaller if I wish. And then again, you have complete control over rotating and repositioning any of the items in your cluster if you want to. So we can play around with that. So that is the balancer. And let's turn that off. And let's go ahead and try the last one, the tuck. Now the tuck is a unique one because this one actually leaves you a photo spot. So this one is less for your collages and more for adding to a layout. It's more like a digital template, really, an action template. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. We need some paper strips, flowers, chipboard or flat elements, a heart, and a glitter spray or other accent. And let's press continue. So we're going to start with a paper strip. And for these, I really mean journal cards work well, scraps of paper work really well, anything that will tuck behind a photo nicely. And now we get a second one. So maybe we'll choose this one. Okay, and then you'll see when this one finishes, we are actually given a cluster frame here that we can tuck things on top and beneath. And in this case, I may want to move some of these things around. I think I might want the stocking up here instead, and the present over here behind, and this cluster here, let's just rotate that stamp around and move it to the back. So we've got that going there. And you'll see here we can grab that big card and just make it a little smaller, I think. Bump it over. So there we go. That is how the tuck works. This is one of my favorite ones because you can quickly add a whole bunch of layered pieces to your page along with a photo spot, and all you have to do now is clip your photo to that spot and you've got the beginnings of a fabulous layout. So these are the Embellisher Actions, and you'll be seeing more sets of these coming in the future. I know this one is labeled number 2. There is a number 1 and it will be coming over the next couple of months. So thank you for watching this episode of Learn It, and I hope you enjoy these fun actions as much as I do. See you next time on Learn It.